Hey, how's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to Imperium Gaming, and welcome to the 5th episode of Kingdom Come Deliverance History, a series where I use the game as a visual tool to showcase various aspects of late medieval life. In today's episode, we'll be taking a look at medieval art and its symbolism. If you're interested in medieval European history and literature, then you have to also be familiar with religious and mythological references for full understanding and appreciation of the material. For example, Dante's Commedia, or Divine Comedy, is jam-packed with references to ancient Greco-Roman history and mythology, Judeo-Christian theology and philosophy, and the poet's own medieval Florentine contemporaries. The art in Kingdom Come Deliverance is no exception. The in-game artwork is full of allusions to biblical and other saintly tales, some perhaps better known than others by a modern, secular audience. Some key examples include the Stations of the Cross from the Passion, Saint George and his slaying of the dragon, the anointing of Jesus, the martyrdom of Saint Sebastian, and the visitation of the three Magi during the Nativity of Jesus. In the medieval period, such works of art helped the Latin illiterate masses of the common people familiarize themselves with and ultimately learn from these stories. On the topic of educating the vulgar crowd according to the principles of Christian theology, we can find one of my favorite in-game examples in the church at Sasau, where the 7 virtues and the 7 vices are illustrated in clear juxtaposition. The 7 virtues of kindness, abstinence, patience, chastity, diligence, liberality, and humility are arranged beautifully on a blossoming tree, and arranged opposite the 7 vices of envy, gluttony, anger, lust, sloth, greed, and pride, which instead grow from semi-monstrous limbs. If there was any confusion, these are also cataloged above the portal or door of the church, though in Latin, which was of course the language of the Western Church. These illustrated charts, when combined with the teachings and sermons of religious figures, would have had a significant reinforcing effect on the local populace. Don't be lustful, be chaste. Don't be envious, show instead kindness, etc. Of course, it's also important to know not all medieval works of art were religious in nature, deciding to instead focus on secular pastimes or historical events. In Kingdom Come Deliverance, some of the best examples can be found in the upper and lower castles of Rete, where we have various scenes of hunting and feasting, perhaps reflecting the rather convivial personalities of Sir Hanush of Lipa and Sir Hans Capon. There's also an illustration of a medieval tournament, which is a near identical replica of one of the folios of the Codex Manesse, which I think is a really cool nod to the historical source material. Furthermore, another one of my favorite examples can be found at the fully upgraded church of Pribyslavitz in From the Ashes, which, spoiler alert, illustrates several scenes from Henry's journey in the game. According to the in-game codex entry on frescoes, the vast majority of paintings were created by following a strict artistic guideline, which would have allowed for a great deal of consistency between varying artists and their works throughout Latin Christendom. These illustrative frameworks would have been important, once again, in educating the masses in a widely consistent manner. A number of examples include the representation of the 4 evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, as a man, lion, ox, and eagle, respectively, Saint Peter with a key, symbolizing the gateway to heaven, and Saint Martin of Tours on horseback, giving his cloak to a beggar, illustrating a well-known tale from the life of the saint. These symbols, motifs, and scenes all help establish the consistency between the artistic and theological canons. If you see a saint wearing his own skin or wielding a flaying knife, then you know you're looking at Saint Bartholomew, or a man with a sling facing a giant, the tale of David and Goliath. Despite these illustrative frameworks and guidelines, however, there were inevitably differences between artists and their own personal styles, and this is well reflected in Kingdom Come Deliverance. For example, there are several depictions of the Passion of Jesus Christ, including the Last Supper and the Crucifixion, throughout the endgame world. Thanks to the consistency of the artistic framework and canon, we are able to recognize these stories. But thanks to the individuality of each artist's own brushstrokes and interpretations, we are also able to appreciate each work of art as an individual and personalized masterpiece. In regard to the tale of Adam and Eve eating from the Tree of Knowledge, for example, the artist of the fresco at the Great Hall of Talmberg decided to illustrate a literal serpent of evil, while the artist of the fresco at the Church of Rete opted to present the serpent with a human face, perhaps emphasizing the fraud of the deceptive and golden-tongued beast. So, we analyzed a number of the larger illustrations, both religious and secular, in Kingdom Come Deliverance. But it behooves us to also take a look at some of the smaller motifs throughout the endgame world and their symbolism. Flowers and other floral designs are ubiquitous in medieval art for their associations with the Virgin Mary and Jesus himself, often symbolizing the resurrection and the Christian life after death, with some key examples including the lily and the fleur-de-lis, the latter famously used in French and Florentine heraldry. On the topic of heraldry, the in-game artwork also makes it clear as to who's in charge in a particular region, such as the local coats of arms of the Lords of Talmberg and Lipa, as well as the imperial eagle of the Holy Roman Empire, which of course included the lands of Bohemia. And that was my brief overview of medieval art in Kingdom Come Deliverance. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and for more on your favorite historical games, stay tuned with Imperium Gaming on YouTube and Twitter. Thanks again, and until next time.